my original question is what was that which ended up being Eon 4. So there's this approximately 1700 years that will be in the celestials.
Correct.
And we'll live
for the day of God, or before the fifth eon, or before the consummation.
Right.
Yeah.
So at that point, we will be immortal.
Oh yes, we're going to be raised immortal.
Okay.
We're going to be we have our expectation is first. We are pre-expectant in the Christ. So Christ is the first one raised immortal.
Okay.
And we being his joint body, we are going to be also in, a part of the first.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so in that 15-year, 100-year period of Eon 4, the people who are going to be alive will be the body, right?
Yeah.
Church, which is his body. I'm trying to, and the Jewish people.
And the body of Christ too. So who will be alive then will be anyone who was called.
Okay.
Anyone who had faith will already be alive. And those of us who are called today will be raised immortal. And in fact, that's the only way we're going to get to our manifestation, right? Because we're not equipped to live there. So we'll be immortal. Everyone else who will be raised will be people who are called in other administrations, in other callings. They'll all have been raised by the time, let's say, by the time the 1,000-year begins. Everyone will have been raised. The last people to be raised will be the dead martyrs of the tribulation. So all believers will have been raised by the time the kingdom starts. And the only ones who are probably mortal who will be around will be those who were born during the premillennial kingdom and lived the way through until the millennium, which probably would have resulted in some kind of faith for them to be able to survive that.
So what about the people? So where's the people who are alive at the beginning, were born in the third eon, and so we're alive when is that when they'll be thrown into? Is that the first death?
No, say that again.
Will there be a judgment at the beginning of Eon 4?
Yes, there will be but not a personal judgment. It'll be a judgment of the nations.
Okay.
That judgment of the nations, there will be no personal judgment. Now, not like this big event. Right. So let me explain that. So there will be at the beginning of the fourth eon and the reign of Christ, first of all from his celestial place, and later from his terrestrial place. The only group judgment will be at the beginning of the millennial kingdom, and that'll be the judgment of the nations. You know, the sheep nations and the goat nations, and their, so, and that'll all be on the criteria of how they dealt with Israel, and humanitarianly. I probably didn't say that right, but anyway, whether they clothed them and fed them and took care of them. So that'll be, but that's that in that 200-year period where they're going to be judged on that. So God's going to be preparing to reestablish the nation Israel, and the nations are going to be judged on their humanitarian dealings with the Jews. And that judgment there will determine which nations get to be under the rule of Israel. So not all nations will continue. Some of them will be done as nations, as governments. But some will earn the privilege of being national identities under Israel as the head nation of it. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
then during the premillennial kingdom, as well as the kingdom, the millennial kingdom, there's going to be what often gets called the judgment seat of Christ. That's not one big judgment that the way it gets presented is when we die or when we get resurrected, we're all going to appear before the judgment seat of Christ. And, there's going to be a review and rewards. We're not having a review, and we're not having any rewards. We've already been called, and our destiny's already sure and settled. Our place has already been picked. So we're not going through any of that. Billinger, as far as I know, was the first one to realize, maybe realize that or write about it. And he calls the judgment seat of Christ as an impossible judgment for those of us who fall under Ephesians and Colossians. It's impossible that that our works are going to be judged. So what's going to happen is during the kingdom, whether premillennial or millennial, then individuals are going to be brought before this tribunal and judged. It'll be just like any other judicial system, any other government, when there's judgment that needs to take place. So that's what the judgment seat of Christ is, this continual arbitration and this continual rewarding, and it's going to be ongoing. So people who go ahead. You ask questions because I know you got something that.
So the average Joe who's around, minding his own business.
Yeah.
When we're taken out.
Yeah.
What happens to him?
Well, he will continue life. He's Joe. We'll call him Joe Ordinary. Joe Ordinaries will continue his life. And that first couple hundred years, it'll still be man's day, and man's still fumbling along, but God's setting up the national scene of world events to prepare for the resurrection of Elijah and eventually David and eventually the 12, and I believe all that resurrection will be on an as needed basis, because we don't need unnecessary people around who are equipped to do certain things, and it's not time for them to do their certain things.
So there will be. So during that time, there will be birth, life, death for the regular.
Say that again.
So during that time, average Joe.
Yeah.
So he'll die at some point.
Yes. Right.
He'll have babies.
Yeah. Yeah. Life will go on.
Life goes on.
Yeah. There's going to be birth. There's going to be life. There's going to be death. Now, there is the possibility, once that kingdom gets in place after the 200 years, it is possible for people who are born in that time, who are then exercising faith that God granted them, that they'll just be able to continue to live.
Okay.
So that life can become like it was in the early chapters of Genesis, where people are living, crazy amounts of time. They're living for centuries. So there's no reason that can't be reestablished. So the person my neighbor, Joe Ordinary, after I've died, after all of us have died, who are the called of this secret administration, and then we get resurrected and manifest with Christ, he'll just continue his normal, natural
He won't
life.
even know anything happened.
No, he's not going to miss.
Yeah, he won't miss us, because most of us are already dead.
Yeah, because we died naturally. Yeah, so he will not suspect anything, and life will just move on. Now, and I think maybe one of your, and if not, we can still address it. Maybe one of your questions is, and get it out of our neighbors. Let's quit talking about Joe Ordinary, and we'll talk about granddaughter beloved,
Right.
who's not been called and hasn't been granted faith. So she'll just continue to live on, and again, she won't suspect anything, because we died, from whatever. We had a heart attack or cancer, or, or just
old age,
whatever.
Yeah.
So she's not going to suspect anything. She'll just continue life as normal. And it's not going to be catastrophic. There's nothing in that 200 years that I know anything about that's going to be catastrophic, at least any more than normal.
Right.
Life is catastrophic. The hurricane that is in Jamaica, I haven't I haven't seen any footage or anything, but I've been made aware that it's there.
Yeah.
But that probably seemed like, if you were living through that, that probably seemed like you were in the apocalypse.
We spent some time there years ago.
Okay.
And they're friends of ours, and us, we get down almost every year. And so some of those places I recognize and whatnot. And,
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But anyhow, so there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Going on.
It won't be anything global. It won't be anything, in fact, granddaughter beloved, she, the United States is not even, it's not even in the prophetic picture at all. So actually it's a pretty good place to be. If you lived in the Middle East, I mean, that's always a bad place to live.
Mm-hmm.
And all the regions around. So yeah, she'll just continue. Now, when she dies, then maybe the question is, well, how long is she going to be dead? Well, of course, that'll depend on when she dies. So even if she died, if she died today, even if we all died today, we don't know how long the senior administration is going to keep going. So we can't say with any confidence how long anybody's going to be dead who dies today, because we don't know when the clock starts back. But whenever the clock starts back, which will be after we've died, after we've been resurrected, after we appear with Christ in glory, the clock will start back. And from that time till when the unbeliever has been raised, is going to be at least 1,700 years. But they're not missing out. And here's the way we could get a perspective of that. They're not missing anything. In fact, that whole period, that whole 1,700 years is preparation. And that wouldn't actually, if you don't have a job to do in the preparation, there's no reason for you to be there. You're just in the way, and it won't be pleasant if you don't have a function. If an unbeliever was raised any time in that period, it would be anything glorious, and so that's not God's purpose. So the only people who are getting raised are people who got jobs to do, So this is all stage work. This 1,700 years is getting to the day of God. And so it's really a blessing. It's really a grace. It's really a kindness that people aren't raised who aren't a part of the restoration, who aren't a part of the reconciliation. It's really great that they're not raised. So when they get raised at the beginning of the day of God in the consummate age, the last and fifth eon, when they get raised, everything's going to be right. It's going to be awesome, And then those of us who are raised before, we all raised because we got work to do, So I liken that if your kids are little and you're going to have some big day tomorrow, and we're all going to have a fabulous day at an amusement park, and so everybody, all the people in the family, they may all go to sleep. They may all go to bed and go to sleep at different times. Maybe the youngest kids are going, they go to bed maybe 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. It's going to be a big day tomorrow. Older kids, maybe, 10 or 11. The parents may stay up till 12, because but also they may all wake up at different times, because you're going to let the baby sleep as long as it can. And in fact, other than the deadline when you're going to leave and whatever prep you need before that, you're probably going to let everybody sleep. But likely the parents are going to get up an hour or two maybe before. And what are they going to do? Prep. They're going to get ready for the day. They're going to lay the kids' clothes out. They're going to get the car ready. They're going to get any food and snacks ready. They're going to prepare. And then then everybody gets up by a certain time, and then everybody enjoys the day, But there's no reason to get the baby up, at the crack of dawn. Because the baby don't have anything to do. So you follow that analogy?
Well, yeah, and it's for the young kids, especially. I mean, that from when they go to bed to when they get up, it seems like a second. It's not. And that's everybody who's dead at that point. They're going to die.
Exactly.
And it's going to seem like immediately, and here everything's ready to go.
Yeah, because if that baby wakes up, and let's just say, it's an infant. If it wakes up when the parents wakes up, that child, there is no pleasant experience there, and the child's actually in the way. You really need to want. I mean, when you and I were parents, there were certain times we were glad the kids were asleep.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'll be honest with you. We traveled across the country to California by car twice when the kids were little. We did a lot of our drive in the middle of the night because the kids are sleeping.
Yeah.
It was easy, Nobody's got to go to the bathroom. Nobody's hungry. Nobody's,
bad mood. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know what? They fall asleep in the car and they wake up at some destination. It's awesome, but I can't fall asleep in the car. I got work to do, right? Mm-hmm. I got to drive and get us there. And we those of us who are called, we got stuff to do to get creation where it needs to be. God has made the called participants in the restoration, participants in the reconciliation. We are not bystanders. We are directly vessels of the reconstruction, the restitution, the reconciliation. So we got stuff to do. So it's really great that they're not going to be raised. That whole glorious resurrection for the lost person, that's going to be an amazement. Well, they might not be too amazed in that process.
And halfway through, yeah.
Yeah. One in the kitchen. Somebody's got to go in the kitchen and get the meal ready. And it's going to take a while. Everybody shows up at the dinner table and enjoys the fruit. But really, we don't need any bystanders in the kitchen. Mama says, get out of the kitchen.
Yeah. Outside and play.
Yeah. And so that's the whole picture there. So at most, someone is, no. Well, anyway. So people are could be dead around sleeping for around 1,700 years. Now, no one's missing out on anything because they weren't created and called and equipped to do anything. So they're just waiting their turn. We're all on the stage of the divine drama. We only show up on the stage when it's our part. And we only leave when our part of the script is over. And to be on the stage before our script starts or after would clutter the stage and we would have nothing to do. We would be a distraction and it would be a distraction to us. So let's put this in perspective. Let's put this 1,700 years into perspective. I was thinking earlier today, we talked about wanting to discuss this. I was thinking about, say, Abraham, for example. Abraham's been sleeping. He's been dead for about 4,000 years. Has he missed stuff? Well, maybe the question is, has world events and people's lives and circumstances continued for 4,000 years? Yes. Did any have any bearing on him? Not at all. It has nothing to do with him. So Abraham's not missing out on anything in those 4,000 years. So if our beloved granddaughter misses 1,700 years, it's a little consequence, really. Or even Paul. Paul's been not knowing anything for 2,000 years. So, and it's okay because none of that has anything to do with his role. He finished and completed his writings, which continue their work, but his part's done. So ourselves, you know, when I think about it, you know, we missed the first, even if we accepted Unger's chronology of the Old Testament, we missed the first 6,000 years. But we didn't really miss it because it wasn't our part.
Right.
You know, so it's all going to be wonderful. And we would prefer, just like parents preparing for a grand day with the whole family, we'd prefer them be sleeping and until the time was right. They say, get up.
We're here.
It's all ready. Let's go. Yeah. So I don't know if that helps at all. And maybe
go. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing I was thinking about was, you know, with the whole old religious mentality, it was all about punishment and rewards.
Yeah.
And so having this discussion, it just, you know, we're not being rewarded for doing certain things.
No.
We're just, like you say, we have a job to do.
That's right.
We were called for that particular, those particular tasks. And the people who are asleep are not being punished because they weren't called. They didn't make that.
Right.
No choices in any of this.
Yeah.
So really, there are no rewards. There's only gifts.
No.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, Paul talks about walking worthy of the vocation where you called.
Right.
So we've been called to a vocation. We've been selected for duty. We got a job to do. Right now, it may feel like we're doing a job, but really we're not. Right now, we're in training for the job that we will do. And not that training's not work, because a lot of times if you get selected to work for a company and there's a period, you know, you're getting paid and you're being taken care of because you are working.
Right.
But it's not. Yeah, but you're not really in your vocation yet. You're getting ready for it.
Well, that's why doctors, you know, once they go through the
the training.
What you call it. They go through the training, so they're in the hospital.
Residency.
So they're working in a hospital. They're helping people.
Oh my gosh!
But
we're on our residency. I'm gonna write that down.
And so they're helping people while they're being trained.
Yeah. Yes.
So working towards the time when they're at the actual, they become the doctor.
Yes.
And then they're the ones that have their own practice or whatever. And
So, you know, Steve, you and I are in divine residency.
Yeah. But we all are, you know.
Yeah.
Even people who, you know, even those who are called, who work in their job, you know, a regular job or whatever.
Oh yeah, I wasn't. Yes. I wasn't trying to be exclusive, but
no, I understand. I was trying to just push it out. Wherever we are, is our residency.
Yes, right. And every single circumstance. Let's back it up beyond that. Every single DNA strand, every single genetic makeup, every single influence and circumstance that we've had in our entire life and everything we've done, none of it insignificant. None of it is being wasted. It is all precisionally crafted to equip us perfectly for our vocation in the manifestation. Is that awesome?
That is.
Now we can't see it.
No.
We can't see how that all fits together. but embrace it by faith. We embrace that. And that's what gets us through the times in our life that make no sense, and they don't make any sense. It's like the kids again, as they're growing up, we're trying to teach them and train them. Most of that doesn't make any sense to them, but we know that they need to know these things, and we know they need to go through these things, and how much more our Father.
Right. So one other question, and this goes back to the nations. So Israel at that point will not be the Israel that we see now.
Oh, in no way. In fact, the Israel, and I'll put it in air quotes, the Israel that we see now is not the Israel of God. Paul refers to it, I believe, in Romans. He calls it the Israel of, and they're not the Israel of God. They are, because in the fall of Israel, in the judicial decree of the setting aside of Israel in Acts 28, in essence, all nations, let's rephrase that. The nation of God, Israel, became a part of the nations. So really all nations are Gentile. And even if the inhabitants of the borders of current Israel, even if they were descendants of Abraham, and we have no authority to say that they are, but even if they were, they would not be God's operation, because all prophecy very structured and detailed and clear about what it will look like when God brings the descendants of Abraham back into the land. And it looks nothing like what ever transpired since Acts 28, not even in the last 100 years. So so we're not talking about the Israeli nation, the current nation. That nation there was brought in by the other nations, by Gentiles, and it's all a human effort. And I will just suggest that there are sinister and ulterior motives involved in all of that setup and operation.
Well, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah. And do not expect no prophecy. Here is very important. No prophecies being fulfilled in the secret administration. Nothing happened divinely prophetic in 1948 or any other time. And all of that will take place after the close of the secret administration. That's why we can, we can disengage. We can make our world smaller and focus on the administration God gave us, and focus on truth God gave us, and focus on our families, on our life, and not be distracted by national activity and world activity. It's all man's day. It is all the evil and wicked age, or eon. And man, if someone can see that, it changes everything. And of course,
Well, and so the Israel that will be in Eon 4. So what, you think people will just like migrate back, or
yes,
all over the world?
Yeah, from a relative perspective, prospect, our perception. They're migrating, which they are,
Mhm.
but it's not a natural migration. It is the divine operation. It is the logos. It's the plan of God. It's divine energy that will inhabit the seed of Abraham, because God's the only one who knows who they are. And so the divine operation of God will inhabit the seed of Abraham, and he will draw them right to the land, and where they're going to meet up with resurrected Elijah, who has the master blueprint. He has the education and the preparation from his the first part of his life he has the blueprint of how to restore. The scriptures teach us that Elijah must first come and restore things, and so he'll set everything up. And it's, even if we thought there was a possibility of prophecy being fulfilled today, all you got to do is look in the Middle East and,
it's not happening.
This is not what prophecy said.
Yeah, well, I like and I just to reiterate what I said, this whole plan is such a move from traditional Christianity. Like, it's, their whole setup is a series of rewards and punishments and rewards and punishments. This is all planned to make, it's real justice. It's making things right it's step by step, but it's making things right to build up to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everyone is right where they should be.
Right.
And everyone is perfect for their role. Even if the role is imperfection, which all of it is for us this first go round. And it's all perfect. If that baby that we were talking about in our big family trip, if that baby went to bed early and it went to bed first and got up last, that was perfect, because it had no contribution.
Right.
But then it had a big contribution, because it's part of family life and laughter and having a good time and all of that. So everything's perfect. It's wonderful. Wow. It's beautiful.
It is. And that's,
so
I can't even think of words right now, but it just, there's so much, there's just grace/joy all through the process, even when it looks like things are going to hell in a handbasket. And but it's going towards a perfect end.
Yes.
And nobody's getting fried. Nobody's getting
and the more mature we are, the more stable we are. Maturity creates stability, and that's true in life.
Yeah.
And when we say maturity, we don't necessarily mean the older you get, the more stable you are, because maybe you never only get mature.
Yeah, I struggle with that.
There's a lot of retired people who are still infantile in their development, but the whole process of maturity brings stabilization. So the less mature, let's say that infant can cry at the drop of a hat.
Right.
Their world can fall apart over things that are meaningless in the big picture. But let's say we way on out here who've made the natural process, let's say the grandparents, they just, they can have this nice stable place, while the younger and the more immature, their lives feel like they're falling apart, and but it's all perfect. It's all, everybody's playing their perfect role. Everybody comes on the stage at the perfect timing. of the script writer and the director. And everybody stays the perfect amount of time on the stage, and everybody has their lines perfect and are going to get the applause of God. And everybody exits at the perfect time. And then at the end of the curtain call, all creation stands, and God applauds the drama of redemption, drama of reconciliation, drama of restitution. It's going to be beautiful. It's all good.
Yeah, and the thing that, and that's true for every person, even the ones who are in prison, maximum security prison, Colorado. You know, we forget sometimes that they're playing their part.
Yes.
And God, and it's not that we should let them loose. No, because that's what. But just being that person and coming out the other end and go, what they thought would have been a wasted life, they'll see what Father was doing with all of that.
Yes, right. Yeah, in the relative sense, there are people in the production, the stage production, that we call extras. And their roles appear relatively insignificant. But even the extras are vital to the story. Because if you didn't have the extras and the stage was bare, the story would be drastically affected negatively. Now, that's just all relative. Right. Because in the absolute, even though we could see a glimpse of that in that illustration, in the absolute, no one's an extra, you know. God is... How can anybody be an extra if God is going to be all in all? And if God's in all the apparent extras, they are all.
And there's going to be some amazing, I mean, I can think, like, I'm standing around watching this unfold at the Consummation, and here comes the son of Sam, you know, from way back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, all right, what's he going to do with this? And let's see what, And
those are the kind of things I am.
How's he going to pull this one off? You know?
Yeah.
Make this look good. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I can't. Oh, that's one of the things I greatly look forward to. Obviously, we look forward to our loved ones. Sure. Obviously, we look forward to people that we loved and respected that we never knew. And we look forward to meeting Bible characters, and we look forward to meeting people that stand on their shoulders in truth, you know. But really, right up in there are all these characters that were apparently inherently evil. And to watch their post-resurrection amazement, it's going to be awesome. We got to say, you know, Father God, slow that down. We need all that in slow motion.
Yeah, what that'll be, you know, and you get Stalin up there and Hitler and Pol Pot and all these evil guys from way back in the day. And
sure, you know that, and that's a stumbling block to people who haven't been granted faith, and they're like, oh, you know, I've had people tell me before, you know, if Hitler's going to be saved, I don't want any part of this salvation. And I'm like, and you have to, you sort of chuckle internally and you think, oh my gosh, we think we're better than anybody, really. But, and I have such a different, it's not like I'm tolerate their redemption. I'm not going to tolerate their reconciliation. It's just going to be awesome.
Right. And and then Eon 5, which goes on for however long. And all those stories, I mean, I just think of all those stories that be played out, we talked about Hitler with the Jewish kids and how everybody will all have a different perspective, obviously.
Yes.
Because we'll be immortal and so those periods of time, those like 5 years of World War II or whatever it was, it'll just be it's a moment it'll just seem like a moment when you're there and discuss and
there's so much catching up to do. Paul Harvey used to say, our younger people won't know anything about this, but he used to have the radio show and he would tell the rest of the story.
Right.
He'd tell the story, but there were some hidden elements, and then he would tell you the rest of the story. Well, do you know how many rest of the stories there are? Every single part of God's creation has a rest of the story. You want to talk about, not only is there so much to do and so much to enjoy, there's so much to catch up on. On and on and on.
You could imagine like the Battle of the Bulge, and so the Germans and the Americans and British will all just sit around and talk about how that went and where they were at and
tell their stories.
Yeah.
You and I both, Steve, we one of the ways we like to have some downtime is we enjoy watching movies and TV series, dramas.
Right.
We love to watch things unfold. It's very relaxing. I get to the end of the day and my brain is worn out or fried from studying and I just sort of zone out and watch stories unfold.
Right.
Humanly devised stories unfold. And it's very relaxing and it's very entertaining. And oh my goodness, how many billions of stories that we have not yet been introduced to, that we don't know about. And we're going to be, oh my goodness, we're going to be able to relax and enjoy. Oh my goodness, it's going to be entertaining to see God, the script writer, let us in.
We can hang out with Eskimos. We can hang out with people from Central Africa. We can go to India, and everybody, like you say, everybody will have their story.
Oh my gosh!
And it'll be like constant entertainment, like you say.
Oh my goodness! Yes, yeah.
Like we say, this is getting gooder and gooder.
It is getting gooder and gooder.